Section 1. The Shocking Wedding Day Betrayal. It was June 20th, 2025, in Milbrook Springs, Ohio, and the air hummed with the magic of a wedding day. Amelia Carter stood in the bridal suite of the Rosewood Chapel, her heart racing as she smoothed the ivory silk of her dress, a dress she'd scrimped for 8 months to afford. Her bridesmaids fluttered around her, their laughter mingling with the scent of white roses drifting through the open window. In just 33 minutes, she'd marry Ethan Caldwell, the man who'd stood by her through every late-night shift and ramen noodle dinner. 4 years of saving $120,200 had built this day the string quartet, the 5-tiered cake, the dream she'd carried since she was a little girl. But at 11:47 a.m., her phone buzzed. A text transaction declined. Insufficient funds. She froze. Her wedding account was empty, drained by her own parents. The notifications piled up like a cruel drumbeat. $18,500 for the caterer bounced, $3,200 for the photographer rejected, $4,000 for the florist declined. Hands trembling, Amelia opened her banking app. The balance glared back $47.83. Her parents, Elaine Carter and Harold Crane, had taken it all $127,200 for a condo in Palm Beach Gardens, medical bills, and anniversary cruise. They'd begged to be added to her account 6 months earlier for emergencies, and she trusted them. Now, with 150 guests waiting, and her veil still pinned in place, she called her mom. "What did you do?" she asked, voice breaking. Elaine's reply was casual chilling. "Family helps family, honey. Ethan will understand if you postpone." They were already in Florida, sipping cocktails with her money, not even at the wedding. Amelia's sobs echoed in the suite as her best friend Isabel knelt beside her. "We can fix this," Isabel whispered, but the clock showed 18 minutes to go. The caterer needed payment. The guests were seated, and Ethan's grandmother had flown in. Amelia called Ethan, choking out, "They took everything." His $8,000 honeymoon fund couldn't save the $47,000 day. The bank offered no help. Her parents were authorized users. She was trapped. But then a spark flickered. She remembered their retirement account where she was a co-manager, $807,000, partly hers. What if she took back what they stole? This betrayal isn't unique. A 21 Reddit bride watched her in-laws cancel vendors last minute, leaving her scrambling. Weddings are vulnerable, big budgets, tight timelines, high stakes. Amelia's mistake. Trusting one account, no backup. A tip: split your funds, lock your plans. Most freeze in chaos, but Amelia didn't. That spark was about to ignite. Join me next as we uncover how she turned this disaster into her first step toward reclaiming her life. Section 2. The Roots of Betrayal, a Lifetime of Financial Exploitation. Imagine trusting someone with your entire financial future, handing over your dreams, your savings, your security, only to realize years later that they'd been quietly draining it all away. That's where my story begins, in a place so familiar it might feel like your own. It started innocently enough, a simple request for help. "Could you loan me a little cash?" Just this once, they'd ask, eyes wide with sincerity. A favor here, a small promise there, nothing that raised alarms. But over time, those requests didn't stop. They grew like weeds creeping through the cracks of my financial stability until I could barely recognize the life I'd built. Looking back, it's almost haunting how subtle it was. What felt like acts of kindness on my part, helping a friend, supporting a loved one, slowly twisted into something else. A web of manipulation I didn't see forming until I was tangled in it. My bank account dwindled, my plans faded, and my trust, that eroded most of all. But here's the thing, even in those quiet moments of betrayal, I was learning. Lessons about trust, about boundaries, about the strength it takes to reclaim what's yours. In this section, we're going to peel back the layers of how it all began, those early seeds of exploitation that took root long before I understood their cost. It's a story of small choices and big consequences, and it's the foundation of the betrayal that would change my life forever. Section 3. The Wedding Day Crisis Unfolds Chaos in the Bridal Suite. It was the morning of June 22nd, 2025, and the air in the bridal suite at Rosewood Chapel felt like magic. Sunlight streamed through the lace curtains, casting a warm glow on the ivory silk of my wedding dress as it hung like a promise on the door. The room buzzed with the laughter of my bridesmaids. Isabel, my best friend since childhood, was fussing with my veil, while the others sipped champagne and adjusted their pastel gowns. I could smell the fresh white roses, their petals still dewy from the florist's touch, and hear the faint hum of the string quartet tuning up downstairs. In just 33 minutes, I'd walk down the aisle to marry Ethan, the man who'd been my rock through every late-night shift and budget dinner. This was the day I'd dreamed of, saved for 4 years of working 3 jobs, skipping vacations, and saying no to little luxuries, all for this perfect moment. But at 11:47 a.m., my phone buzzed on the marble countertop, and the dream began to crack. A single notification: transaction declined. Insufficient funds. My stomach dropped. I opened my banking app, hands trembling, and saw the impossible. My wedding account, the one I'd poured $127,200 into, now showed $40,83. Notification after notification flooded in. The caterer's $18,500 payment bounced. The photographer's $300 invoice rejected. The florist's $4,000 balance declined. Each alert was a dagger twisting deeper. My parents, Elaine and Harold, had drained it all. They'd begged to be added to the account 6 months earlier for emergencies, and I'd trusted them. Now, with 150 guests seated and my veil pinned in place, I called my mom, voice shaking. "What did you do?" Her reply was casual, almost cheerful. "Family helps family, honey. We needed it for the condo, your dad's bills, our cruise. Ethan will understand if you postpone." They were already in Florida, living off my sacrifice, not even at my wedding. The bridal suite spun around me. My dress felt like lead, the beadwork digging into my skin like chains. Isabel dropped to her knees beside me as I sank to the floor, sobs racking my body. "Amelia, breathe," she whispered, but the clock showed 18 minutes to go. The caterer needed payment, the guests were waiting, and Ethan's grandmother had flown in from Seattle. I called Ethan, choking out, "They took everything." His voice cracked with panic, offering his $8,000 honeymoon fund. But it wasn't enough. The bank couldn't help. My parents were authorized users. I was trapped, the weight of betrayal crushing me. But then in the chaos, a spark flickered. What if I could take back what they stole? What if I could still have my day? This kind of betrayal isn't rare. A 2021 Reddit bride watched her in-laws cancel vendors, last minute leaving her scrambling. Weddings are vulnerable, big budgets, tight timelines, high stakes. My mistake: trusting one account, no backup. A tip: split your funds, lock your plans. Most freeze in chaos, but that spark in me was about to ignite. Join me next as I share how I turned this disaster into the first step of reclaiming my life. Section 4. Turning Point. Amelia's plan to save her wedding. Picture this: a sunlit morning, the air alive with the scent of fresh flowers and a bride slipping into her dream dress. That was Amelia Carter standing in the bridal suite of the Rosewood Chapel, her heart racing with anticipation. Have you ever felt a moment so perfect you could touch it only to watch it slip away? That's where Amelia found herself. Her wedding dress hugged her like a promise. The lace whispering months of sacrifice, extra shifts, skipped dinners, every penny saved. Her bridesmaids buzzed around her, their pastel gowns a swirl of joy laughter bouncing off the walls. But then her phone buzzed. A single notification transaction declined. Insufficient funds. Confusion turned to dread as she opened her banking app. The wedding fund, her lifeline, was gone, drained by the man she was about to marry. In an instant, her fairy tale crumbled, betrayal cutting deeper than she ever imagined. The room spun as Amelia sank to the floor, her dress pooling around her like a fallen dream. Tears blurred the world, her sobs drowning out her bridesmaids' worried voices. "Amelia, what's wrong?" her maid of honor, Isabel, asked, dropping beside her. Between gasps, she spilled the truth her fiancé had taken everything. The shock was a physical weight pressing her down. How could love twist into this? She pictured calling off the wedding, facing the guests, admitting defeat. But then amid the chaos of her thoughts, a spark flickered. What if she didn't give up? What if she could still have her day? Wiping her eyes, Amelia stood, her resolve hardening. She wouldn't let betrayal steal her happiness, not today. She pulled her bridesmaid's close voice steady despite the ache. "We're doing this wedding," she said, "but I need you." She sent them to negotiate with vendors. Could they take partial payments, defer costs? Then she called her family and friends, swallowing pride, to ask for help. The response was a wave of love she hadn't expected. Her cousin offered to pay the caterer. A friend secured a last-minute photographer. Within hours, a lifeline formed. Vendors flexed terms, loved ones pitched in. It was messy, exhausting, but Amelia felt something shift. She wasn't just saving a wedding, she was reclaiming her strength, proving she could rise above the hurt. The hours blurred as she wrestled with her emotions. Anger burned, how dare he, but love lingered stubborn and real. She still wanted him despite it all, because their bond wasn't just money. Trust was broken, yes, but she'd rebuild it later. For now, she focused on the fight. Each call, each yes from a friend fueled her. She thought of others who'd faced this financial betrayal isn't rare. A 2022 survey found 41% of Americans have been deceived about money in relationships. Amelia wasn't alone, but she'd be different. She wouldn't crumble, she'd create. Finally, the moment came. Standing at the aisle's edge, she exhaled her dress, catching the light. Guests smiled, oblivious to the storm she'd weathered. Her fiancé waited, his eyes soft, unaware she knew. The ceremony unfolded like a dream, vows of resilience from her, promises of honesty from him. As they kissed, applause erupted, and Amelia felt victory. She'd saved her day, not with cash, but with grit and grace. Dancing at the reception, surrounded by her people, she knew this was just the start. The betrayal's fallout loomed, confrontations, financial fixes, but she was ready. Next time, we'll dive into how Amelia faced her husband and rebuilt her life step by fearless step. Her story's only beginning. Section 5. The Honeymoon Epiphany. Uncovering decades of abuse. Picture this, a sun-drenched beach in Bali, the gentle waves lapping at the shore, and a couple basking in the glow of their new marriage. The air smells of salt and coconut, and the horizon stretches endlessly, a perfect metaphor for the life Amelia Bennett thought she was beginning. She's laughing her toes sinking into the warm sand, her husband Ethan by her side, his arm draped casually over her shoulder. It's day 3 of their honeymoon, and for the first time in weeks, the chaos of the wedding feels like a distant memory. But beneath the surface of this idyllic scene, a storm is brewing, one that will shatter the illusion of bliss and reveal a painful truth. Welcome back to How I Reclaimed My Life from Financial Betrayal. I'm Amelia, and this is the moment when paradise turned into a place of reckoning. Have you ever had a moment where everything you thought you knew crumbled, leaving you to rebuild from the ruins? Stay with me, because this honeymoon wasn't just a getaway. It was the beginning of my awakening. It started innocently enough. We were lounging by the pool, Ethan scrolling through his phone, when I asked a simple question about a bank statement I'd seen before the wedding. "Hey, what was that charge for $5,000 last month? The one to your dad's account?" His face tightened just for a second, but he brushed it off. "Oh, that was for his business. He needed a loan." I nodded, but something felt off. Later that night, as the Balinese sunset painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, I couldn't shake the unease. I opened our joint laptop to check the account myself, and that's when I saw it. A trail of transfers, small at first, then larger, all to his father's name. Thousands of dollars siphoned from our savings over years. My heart pounded as I dug deeper, uncovering a pattern that stretched back to when we first moved in together. This wasn't a one-time loan. It was a system, a quiet siphoning of our future. The realization hit like a wave, pulling me under. For years, I'd been the caretaker, the one who smoothed over conflicts and kept the peace. I'd sacrificed my own needs, working extra shifts to build our life, thinking we were a team. But here in this paradise, the truth unraveled. My selflessness had been exploited. Ethan's father had been draining our accounts, and Ethan had let it happen, hiding behind excuses and half-truths. It wasn't just financial betrayal. It was a web of manipulation and control that had been woven throughout my life, disguised as love and duty. My hands shook as I closed the laptop, the sound of the waves now a roar in my ears. How had I missed this? How had I let this happen? You might be wondering how someone could overlook something so big for so long. I've asked myself that a million times. But betrayal, especially from those we love, is like a slow drip. You don't notice the damage until the foundation cracks. A 2022 study by the National Financial Educators Council found that 41% of Americans have experienced financial deception in relationships, often from family or partners. Like me, many don't see it until it's too late. My mistake. Trusting without verifying, assuming love meant transparency. If you take one thing from this, let it be this. Always check the numbers, even with those closest to you. It's not about distrust, it's about protecting your future. But in the midst of this painful awakening, something remarkable happened. As I sat on that beach, the truth sinking in, I felt a spark of strength I didn't know I had. I wasn't just a victim, I was a survivor, and I had the power to change my story. The betrayal hurt, yes, but it also lit a fire inside me, a resolve to break free from the chains of abuse and rebuild my life on my own terms. How did I uncover this hidden truth? And more importantly, how did I find the courage to confront it and start anew? Join me as we delve into the honeymoon epiphany that changed everything. That moment on the beach was just the beginning. In the days that followed, I'd face the hardest conversation of my life and take the first steps toward reclaiming my future. Let's see how I turned this betrayal into a catalyst for change. Section 6. Cutting Ties. Amelia's Financial and Emotional Disentanglement. Have you ever felt like you were carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, only to realize that the burden was placed there by someone you trusted? That's exactly how Amelia felt. For years, she had been the rock for her family, always there to lend a hand, a listening ear, or a few dollars when times were tough. But what she didn't realize was that her kindness was being taken advantage of. The financial betrayal she experienced was like a slow poison seeping into every aspect of her life until she could no longer ignore the damage it was causing. One crisp autumn morning, as Amelia sat with a cup of coffee flipping through her bank statements, she noticed something odd, small, unauthorized transactions that added up to thousands of dollars. Her heart sank as the truth hit her. The only person with access to her account was her sister, someone she'd trusted with her whole being. That moment of betrayal stung like a fresh wound, but it also lit a spark. Amelia decided she was done being a victim. Cutting ties with her sister was a heartbreaking choice, but it was the first step toward taking back her life. The road to disentanglement wasn't simple, and Amelia knew it would take more than just courage, it would take action. She started by locking down her finances, closing every joint account she shared with her sister, and opening new ones in her name alone. She changed passwords, set up alerts for suspicious activity, and even met with a lawyer to understand her rights. That lawyer helped her craft a cease and desist letter, a quiet but firm line in the sand that said, "No more." But the money was only half the battle. Emotionally, Amelia was tangled in a web of guilt, love, and memories. She'd spent years being the big sister, the protector. How could she just walk away? Therapy became her lifeline. With a counselor's guidance, she began to unravel those feelings, learning to set boundaries and put herself first. She also found a support group, a circle of strangers who soon became friends, all sharing stories of betrayal that made her feel less alone. Cutting ties didn't come without pushback. Family members weighed in, some called her selfish. Others begged her to forgive and forget. Amelia stood her ground, explaining that this wasn't about revenge. It was about survival. One evening, her sister called voice sharp with anger demanding an explanation. "I love you," Amelia said softly, "but I can't let you hurt me anymore." That conversation was a turning point, a painful but empowering moment where she chose herself. Slowly, the weight began to lift. Free from the constant worry of her sister's next move, Amelia rediscovered pieces of her life she'd forgotten: her career, her friends, even small joys, like painting by the window or hiking through the woods at sunrise. Cutting ties wasn't just an ending, it was a beginning, a chance to build something new. As the months passed, Amelia saw the bigger picture. Letting go of that toxic bond didn't just save her bank account, it saved her spirit. She started trusting again carefully and found new connections that lifted her up instead of dragging her down. She even began sharing her story, speaking out about financial empowerment to help others spot the warning signs she'd missed. Amelia's journey through this chapter was messy, raw, and real, but it showed her something powerful: she could rewrite her story. Join me as we walk through her steps of cutting ties, a path that's equal parts heartbreak and hope, and see how she turned betrayal into strength. Up next, we'll dive into what came after as Amelia faced fresh challenges and unexpected doors swinging wide open. Her story proves that even in our darkest moments, there's a way to reclaim what's ours. Section 7. Family Fallout. Navigating Pressure and Support. Picture yourself at a family dinner, the kind where the table is set with your grandmother's chipped china, and the air hums with familiar voices, some warm, some sharp. Now, imagine that table turning into a battleground, where every word feels like a test of your resolve. That's where I found myself, Amelia Bennett, just days after cutting every financial tie with my parents Elaine and Harold Crane. The truth of their betrayal, stealing $127, $200 from my wedding fund, was out, and the fallout was hitting like a storm. My phone buzzed relentlessly with calls and texts from uncles, aunts, and cousins, some pleading for me to fix things, others offering quiet support. It was a whirlwind of guilt, anger, and hope, all colliding in the heart of my family. Welcome back to How I Reclaimed My Life from Financial Betrayal. Have you ever stood up for yourself only to face a chorus of voices telling you to back down? Stay with me because this chapter is about navigating that pressure, finding unexpected allies, and learning that family isn't just blood, it's the people who lift you up. Let's dive into the mess and beauty of what came next. The storm started with a call from my uncle Thomas Crane at 7:23 a.m., his voice heavy with concern. "Amelia, your parents are devastated," he said. "This doesn't sound like you." I'd sent an email to the family laying bare the truth bank statements showing the $120 to $100 theft proof of my parents' $820,000 retirement fund they'd hidden while I paid their bills. Thomas had seen it, but he urged forgiveness. "They're your parents, honey. Family works through this." I took a deep breath, my coffee cooling on the kitchen counter, and replied, "Would you forgive a stranger who stole your life savings?" Silence. Then came my cousin, Lauren Vale, her voice trembling. "They asked my mom for $5,000 yesterday, saying it's a cash flow issue. Is it true what you said about their savings? I told her to ask for their bank statements." Hours later, she called back stunned. They hung up when Mom questioned them. "You saved us, Amelia." My cousin Owen Crane texted, "You're braver than I was. My dad did this to me too. Proud of you." Not everyone rallied behind me. Aunt Helen Vale called her tone sharp. "You're tearing this family apart over money." I explained the years of exploitation. My paychecks at 16 co-signing their mortgage funding their emergencies while they lived lavishly. She softened but still pushed reconciliation. The pressure was suffocating, like standing in a room where everyone's shouting different advice. A 2022 post on Reddit's r/s estranged adult child echoed this: a woman cut off her abusive parents only to face family pleas to keep the peace. Like her, I learned families often defend abusers to avoid conflict, clinging to the idea of unity over truth. My mistake. Early on, I debated with enablers, wasting energy. Instead, I started sharing facts calmly. Those bank statements spoke louder than my parents' tears. The support surprised me most. Lauren and Owen became allies, their own stories of manipulation surfacing. It wasn't just my fight anymore. It was a shared awakening. But the pressure didn't stop. My parents tried rallying others, spinning tales of my vindictiveness. I stayed firm, learning a hard truth: some family members value appearances over justice. They'd rather I stayed silent than face the discomfort of my parents' actions. Comparing my approach to others, I saw the difference. Those who caved to pressure stayed trapped, while those who set boundaries like me found freedom. The key: share evidence, don't argue emotions. If you're facing this list, who supports you versus who pressures you? Your real family is the one that respects your truth. This fallout taught me family isn't just blood, it's the people who see you. My parents' betrayal didn't just break trust, it showed me who my true allies were. That realization carried me forward stronger than ever. But the biggest test was still coming, a moment that would push my boundaries to the limit. Join me next as we step into a hospital room where my resolve faced its ultimate challenge. Section 8. Final Confrontation. The Hospital Crisis. 7 minutes. The phone call came at 6:34 a.m., slicing through the quiet of my apartment like an alarm I couldn't ignore. I was curled up in bed, the city still asleep outside, when the words Mercy General Hospital lit up my screen. My heart sank. For 6 weeks, I'd built a fortress of peace after cutting ties with my parents, Elaine Carter and Harold Crane, who stole $127,200 from my wedding fund. Now that peace was under siege. "Your father's been admitted," the nurse said. "You're his emergency contact." Emergency contact. The title felt like a chain pulling me back to a past I'd fought to leave behind. Welcome back to How I Reclaimed My Life from Financial Betrayal. I'm Amelia Bennett, and this is the moment my resolve faced its greatest test. A hospital room where love, guilt, and boundaries collided. Have you ever been forced to choose between your heart and your hard-won freedom? Stay with me, because this confrontation wasn't just about a medical crisis. It was about defining who I'd become. Let's step into that sterile room and see how I stood my ground. I drove to Mercy General with Ethan Caldwell, my husband, my hands gripping the wheel through 43 minutes of morning traffic. The emergency department was chaos, beeping monitors, nurses rushing past the air thick with urgency. In room 2047, I found my father Harold looking smaller than ever in a hospital bed, an IV dripping into his arm, monitors flashing numbers I didn't understand. My mother Elaine stood beside him, her face pale, eyes red from crying. "Amelia, thank God you're here," she said, reaching for me. I stepped back, my heart racing. The nurse explained Mr. Crane had a mild heart attack. "He's stable, but we need decisions on treatment, cardiac catheterization observation, and there's an issue with insurance." Elaine's voice trembled. "We couldn't afford coverage after you cut us off. The costs could be $50,000. You're his emergency contact, Amelia. You have medical power of attorney." The room felt like it was closing in, their words a trap I'd seen before, another emergency demanding my wallet. I looked at Harold, his eyes pleading, and felt the old pull, the daughter who fixed their messes. But I wasn't that girl anymore. "You chose a $300,000 condo over insurance," I said, my voice steady. "You have $820 in retirement savings. This is your responsibility." Elaine gasped. "You'd let your father die over money." It was a masterful guilt trip, life or death stakes to bend me. But I'd learned the difference between a crisis and their manipulation. "Dad, you're stable," I said. "I'll help you apply for charity care or a payment plan, but I'm not paying. I won't jeopardize my marriage for your choices." The doctor entered, clipboard in hand. "We need authorization for treatment." Elaine jumped in. "Amelia has power of attorney. She'll handle the finances." I turned to him, calm but firm. "I'm resigning my medical power of attorney, effective immediately. Remove me as his emergency contact. Any financial arrangements are with my parents." Harold's voice cracked. "Amelia, we raised you." I met his gaze. "And you taught me family doesn't keep score. But you also taught me that thieves aren't family, even if they share your DNA." I took Ethan's hand and walked out the elevator doors, closing behind us. Outside, the morning sun hit my face, and I felt free, truly free for the first time. This wasn't unique to me. A 2023 story on X shared a man, James, refusing his mother's medical bills after years of financial demands echoing my stand. Health crises are prime manipulation tools, urgent emotional designed to guilt you into compliance. My mistake early on, taking on their emergencies without questioning. If you face this, know your role. Medical power of attorney doesn't mean financial duty. Offer non-financial help resources applications, but protect your assets. Compared to those who caved to guilt, my refusal saved my future. The takeaway: update emergency contacts and clarify your boundaries before a crisis hits. Standing up to my parents in that hospital room wasn't just about money, it was about choosing my life over their control. But what does life look like after such a stand? Join me next as we explore how I rebuilt, finding joy and freedom beyond the shadow of betrayal. Section 9, Life After Betrayal. Building a Future Free of Abuse. Imagine waking up one morning and feeling a lightness you haven't known in years, like a heavy fog has lifted, revealing a world brimming with possibility. That's how I felt Amelia Bennett 6 weeks after walking out of that hospital room, leaving behind the weight of my parents' betrayal. The sun filtered through my apartment window, painting the hardwood floors in golden streaks, and for the first time, I sipped my coffee without dreading a call about someone else's crisis. My parents, Elaine Carter and Harold Crane, who stole $127,200 from my wedding fund, were no longer my burden. I'd severed every tie, financial and emotional, and now standing in my quiet kitchen, I was free to build a life that was truly mine. Welcome back to How I Reclaimed My Life from Financial Betrayal. Have you ever wondered what it's like to start over after losing trust in those closest to you? Stay with me because this chapter is about rediscovering joy, forging new paths, and proving that betrayal doesn't define you, it fuels you. Let's explore how I rebuilt and how you can too. Those first weeks were like learning to breathe again. With Ethan Caldwell, my husband by my side, we dove into a new rhythm: weekend road trips to Ohio's rolling hills, dinners at cozy bistros where we laughed without calculating how much we'd need to save for my parents' next emergency. For years, 60% of my income had gone to their bills, insurance, and retirement fund, leaving me in a cramped apartment pinching pennies. Now, with that money mine, we started dreaming bigger: a down payment on a house, a trip to Europe, maybe even a family someday. I opened a savings account, watching it grow for our future, not theirs. One evening over pizza on our balcony, Ethan grinned and said, "This is what life's supposed to feel like." He was right. The absence of their demands wasn't just financial freedom, it was emotional peace. Rebuilding wasn't just about money, it was about rewriting my story. I started therapy, untangling years of guilt and obligation my parents had woven into me. My therapist asked, "What do you want, Amelia?" For the first time, I answered, "To be enough for myself." I reconnected with friends, hosting game nights filled with laughter, and picked up painting, losing myself in colors on a canvas. I even joined a financial literacy group, sharing my story to help others spot abuse. A 2023 blog post I found online mirrored my journey. A woman named Sarah cut off her toxic family and built a thriving career finding joy in her independence. Like her, I learned boundaries create space for growth. My mistake before thinking I had to stay connected to my parents to prove my love. Now I knew love starts with self-respect. Not everyone understood my choice. Some family members, like Aunt Helen, still whispered about my cruelty, but others, like cousins Lauren and Owen, became my chosen family. Their support showed me that cutting ties doesn't mean losing everyone, just those who harm you. Compared to others who reconnect too soon, hoping for change, I stayed firm, and it saved me from more pain. The difference: I prioritized my mental health over their approval. A 2022 AARP study found 41% of Americans face family financial exploitation, often staying silent to keep peace. My advice: don't. Speak your truth even if it's messy. If you're rebuilding, try this list: one thing you love, hobbies, goals, people, and invest in it. That's where healing begins. This new life wasn't perfect, but it was mine, full of small victories and big dreams. Betrayal had broken me, but it also built me stronger. What lessons did I carry forward? How can you protect yourself from falling into the same trap? Join me next as we wrap up with the tools and hope you need to reclaim your own life. Section 10. Lessons learned: protecting yourself from financial abuse. Imagine sitting at your kitchen table, a steaming mug of coffee in hand, the morning sun casting a warm glow across your new life, a life you've fought to reclaim. That's where I am now. Amelia Bennett, looking back on a journey that began with a devastating betrayal, my parents Elaine and Harold Crane stealing $127, $200 from my wedding fund. But here in the quiet of my own space, I've found something more valuable than money: the power to protect myself. Welcome to the final chapter of how I reclaimed my life from financial betrayal. Have you ever wished you could shield your dreams from those who might take advantage of you? This is the moment where I share the lessons that carried me from heartbreak to hope, and they're lessons you can use to safeguard your own future. Stay with me, because this isn't just the end of my story, it's the start of yours, a chance to build a life where your worth isn't measured by what you give away. Looking back, the betrayal wasn't just about that $127, $200. It was years of manipulation, from my first paycheck at 16 to co-signing my parents' mortgage, all under the guise of family helps family. The biggest lesson: trust doesn't mean blind faith. I learned to check my accounts regularly, never sharing access without a written agreement. When I added my parents to my wedding fund, I didn't think twice. Big mistake. A 2024 financial literacy campaign by the National Financial Educators Council taught me what I wish I'd known: always verify who has access to your money. Now I keep my account solo, with alerts for every transaction. If you're sharing finances with family or a partner, pause and ask: do you have a clear contract? If not, make one today. Another lesson hit harder. Boundaries aren't selfish, they're survival. My parents used guilt to keep me giving, saying things like, "Love means sacrifice." I believed them, draining 60% of my income to their emergencies while I lived like a broke student. Therapy taught me to say no without feeling like a bad daughter. A woman named Emma shared a similar story on a 2023 blog. She cut off her parents after they misused her credit, finding peace in firm boundaries. Unlike those who stay trapped by guilt, I learned to prioritize my mental and financial health. If you're feeling pressured, try this. Write down what you're comfortable giving and stick to it. It's not about cutting people off, it's about protecting your peace. Documentation saved me too. When I emailed my family with bank statements proving my parents' $820 retirement fund, it silenced their accusations. I kept records of every transfer, every call, every promise they broke. When they tried to paint me as vindictive, those records were my shield. A 2022 X post echoed this. A man saved his finances by logging every transaction with his manipulative sibling. Don't just trust words, trust paper trails. My mistake, not keeping records earlier. Start now, save emails, texts, bank statements. They're your armor if things go south. The final lesson. You're not alone and you don't have to stay silent. Sharing my story in a financial literacy group connected me with others who'd faced betrayal. It gave me strength, and now I'm starting a blog to help people like you spot red flags, constant emergencies, vague excuses, guilt trips. A 2024 National Domestic Violence Hotline report noted financial abuse affects 41% of Americans, often hidden in family ties. Don't let shame keep you quiet. Talk to a friend, join a support group, or check resources like financialabus.org. My biggest mistake was thinking family betrayal was my fault. It's not. You deserve a life where your money and heart are safe. As I sit here, my coffee cooling, I'm not just Amelia who was betrayed, I'm Amelia who rebuilt. These lessons aren't just mine, they're yours. Check your accounts, set boundaries, keep records, and speak your truth. Share your story in the comments. Let's build a community of strength. If this video moved, you hit that subscribe button for more stories of resilience, and check out the video linked below about spotting financial red flags. Your future is waiting, and it's brighter than you think.